Hello, BookTube. This is the Scholar Gentleman, and with my latest book report. This one's called "Less Than Human" by David Livingstone Smith. And it's basically why we exterminate, demean, and enslave others. And I don't know why I bought this book for a low price on for Kindle, and I don't know why I read it. I think maybe I needed a palate cleanser, but of course it's very very heavy going stuff, and I'm glad I read it. I learned a lot, but it was kind of depressing. It was really really heavy going stuff. I mean, he goes into the whole history of the concept of when did dehumanization quote unquote start as a concept, and the ancient Greeks kind of codified it by proclaiming that you have humans and you have beasts, and beasts that serve humans, that kind of thing. And then we get into a lot of thought experimentation, a lot of thought experiments about what the meaning of human actually is, and of course, all the obvious examples are brought up. Chattel slavery in the American South, the Holocaust, World War II, plus a whole bunch of others. Hutus versus the Tutsis, um, the slaughter in Bosnia, the whole thing. Basically, it examines the concept of why we feel the urge, the very human urge to create an other to despise and to hate. And the short simple answer is, when you go to war with somebody, when you go to war with another nation, or if you want to gain political power and you need a scapegoat, um, and of course ultimately you need to take the other person's life, it behooves you to dehumanize them, to compare them to beasts, to compare them to either viruses or vermin or predators that want to end your way of life, that type of thing. And living, the author posits that basically pretty much started, but back when we were still the hunter gatherers and our tribe versus the other tribe, and we fear the other. And I guess the great example is how over time how this attitude can change is, for example, when white settlers from Europe started coming over here and met the Indians, and they were reasonably friendly and were trading with them, they saw them as oh, they're white men, but they have a red, they have a red hue. The savages have a red hue, but they're pretty much like us. But later, as time went on, as the 17th century became the 18th century and 19th century, when there were more conflicts over land and resources, suddenly the Indians, not suddenly, but gradually the Indians became savage. They became the red man. In other words, they were unconsciously making them different from themselves so that they'd have the right to, well, kill them if if they interfere with their way of life. And that's basically the crux of the matter. Most people find killing repulsive unless you're a sociopath or unless you're a psychopath. Killing others is, or serial killer, killing others is repulsive. So the trick the trick of propaganda is to get your enemy to be less than human. Yeah, they're and they always say the first casualty of war is truth. And it's like, oh yeah, these soldier X, soldier from country X, is they're bayoneting babies, in the streets and everything. Like it's probably all BS, but it inflames the people at home to want to go to join up to basically go to war against country X. And the depressing thing about this book is that even though we know better, even though we know that we shouldn't dehumanize, we shouldn't put people into categories that are supposedly less than human, we do it unconsciously. It's part of our hardware, and it has to be fought against constantly. And I found that to be really, really depressing. And as a result, that's why I was kind of powering through the book. Don't get me wrong, I learned a lot from it, but I was like, I was highlighting sections here and there. It's a very educational read, but it's, again, very sobering and very, very depressing. But the author leaves it with a helpful note. It's the only way we can ever kind of quote unquote cure dehumanization or the practice of dehumanization is basically pouring more money into studying why humans do this, the psychology of it, so we can basically get to the heart of the matter and hopefully either switch it off or educate ourselves out of it or something. Because when the author was doing research for dehumanization, he found precious little out in literature, and out in field studies and anthropological studies. He found precious little, and that's why he basically decided to write the book, so that there would be a book on the history and practice of dehumanization. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad it's over too. So I went on to something a whole lot lighter to clear the palate, which will be the subject of my next book report. This is a Scholar Gentleman signing off. See you in the next one.